And I have been fascinated by Slovakia for some time because, it's one of these, V4, Visegrad 4 countries, which is very critical for the foreign policy establishment's control over as a buttress to Ukraine and as a key puzzle piece in the Grand Ukraine energy play. The Grand Ukraine energy play is basically this move by NATO energy stakeholders and the whole Atlantic Council, Atlantis' foreign policy set to make, basically $1 trillion in windfall profits by prying off the natural gas market of Europe, which until about 20 years ago was 100% controlled by Russia, which made Gazprom the single largest company in the entire world in 2005, 2006, and then through State Department coerced European energy diversification policies. Because Russia has the cheapest gas and the most plentiful, and otherwise you have to buy more expensive Western LNG. There's been a big part of the move here, and a big part of the Ukraine coup in 2014 was to pry Russian gas off of Europe and replace it with gas coming from the west of Ukraine rather than the east. And a central part of that linchpin plan has been the resupply. See, Ukraine has played such a vital role in the gas market, not because of all the gas that's in Ukraine, but because of the gas transit from Ukraine into Europe from Russia. There's legacy architecture that dates back 100 years. And these pipelines are expensive, they're difficult to maintain, they're deeply interconnected. That's why there's 15 to 30-year contracts on these things. And so the ideal situation is you cut off the Russian gas from the east, and you simply have a new entry point from the gas, but you keep all of that legacy architecture that goes all the way, out to Rotterdam. And the way that they have plotted to do that is primarily through Poland. Poland has this vast new set of gas architecture that can take LNG coming in from the Baltic Sea and then connect through terminals from Poland into Ukraine. And this is why the political leadership of Poland has been such an important thing for NATO to control. And as we just saw with this, with what just happened there a few months ago. But Poland's ports themselves run through Slovakia. Now, this is very important because Slovakia has been on the edge for some time now. The near assassinated president there, Robert Fico, has pledged to not go through with their gas contracts with Russia. They have one set ending in 2024 and another set ending in 2027. Then they pledged to restore those gas contracts with Russia and not cooperate with the desired sanctions of the EU. They are also putting pressure on Ukraine to restore gas relations with Russia. Both Hungary and Slovakia are having conversations about having Ukraine restore some limited amount of engagement with the Ukrainian gas market. This new president has basically rejected the NATO line on the Ukraine-Russia war. And because of the leverage they have over the EU and NATO, because the whole Grand Ukraine energy play, the whole $1 trillion play to run LNG through Poland into Ukraine runs through Slovakia. If this new prime minister decides, hey, you know what, actually, you're going to put sanctions on us if we don't go along with your war, or we have a trump card over you, which is that goodbye to the gas transit to Ukraine, which, by the way, is all of Ukraine's national revenue, essentially, because in order for that gas to go from Poland to Ukraine, you need to go through us. And so because of that, there has been an incredible amount of NATO and CIA and Soros malfeasance to use the rent-a riots, to use the whole regime change BLOB architecture to try to regime change Fico's leadership. Now, this has happened in tandem with Fico trying to root out the NGOs from the BLOB that are similar to as they were in Belarus. You guys remember that famous clip of Alexander Lukashenko talking to, I think, a BBC reporter, where he says, "We've removed all your little structures." Yep. When he's asked why there's no free speech in Belarus, and Lukashenko saying that's not free speech. Those were CIA proprietaries, essentially. Those NGOs were your pawns. They were your structures. this is not a free speech issue. This is a counterintelligence issue. Well, that's the same thing in Slovakia. Slovakia has been totally controlled as a NATO vassal state until the past few years, when basically they've been pushed to the brink, and this new president rode in on a populist outrage over that NATO vassalage. And so, what they've done now is 3 months before this, actually, these NATO renter riots, just like in Georgia, were taken to the streets because of a new law that was essentially kind of like a FARA law, which basically said that, foreign-owned media in the country would not be allowed on state radio or public broadcasting on TV.
Blake, pay attention to
all
this
the opposition media,
because this is important for you.
All of the opposition media in the country was being backed by the CIA by way of the National Endowment for Democracy. So it was an astroturfed opposition movement the entire time. But that is their stool to be able to twist the judiciary. Oh, the other thing is they had a special prosecutor probe to try to Robert Mueller or Jack Smith Robert Fico out of office. And Fico has just recently gestured that he's going to end that special prosecutor probe. So now they're so they did another set of rent riots there to try to basically argue that, rule of law in Slovakia is overturned because now we might not be able to throw him in jail like we threw Imran Khan in jail or Donald Trump in jail. But whose rule of law is it? It's not your country. That's Slovakia. So that's for the Slovakian people to decide.
So for folks who are watching, or if anyone's listening back on the podcast side, on the audio, Slovakia, we've got the map up right now, just south of Poland, just north of Hungary. It's very close to Romania. Again, this is the whole neighborhood, and what do all of the countries